Welcome to Rompevientos Mexican Elections Update. I'm Laura Carlsen. This week, the big news comes from new polls that show that the center-left candidate, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, is on a virtually unstoppable path to victory in the 2018 presidential elections. A poll released May 29th by Reforma shows a 2-to-1 margin over his closest opponent, the Conservative Party's Ricardo Anaya. Not only does he have a large advantage, but it keeps growing. A poll by the firm Parametría shows that López Obrador rose 6 points just in the past month. Consolidating the Reforma and Parametría polls, Bloomberg reported that even if you combine the total votes of the other three candidates, they couldn't beat him. That would only come to 47.5% of the vote, while López Obrador is at 52.8%. It's still not clear if Morena, the national regeneration movement led by López Obrador, will have an absolute majority in Congress. But it's also gaining ground, and the party is leading or a major contender in at least 4, and some say up to 8 of the 9 governorships up for grabs. The Reforma poll also found a full 77% of the population believes current President Enrique Peña Nieto did a bad job of running the country. Many pundits are using this to argue that the vote for López Obrador is essentially a no vote. But it goes much deeper than simply opting for something new. The reaction against Peña Nieto is a reaction against the economic and security policies that have dominated Mexico in the past decades. This explains why no other candidate has been able to present himself as an alternative to harvest the vote of the discontented. The first frustration is the economic policy of neoliberalism. Not only has it led to consistently low growth, punctuated by the occasional crisis, it's also increased inequality. Mexico now has billionaires on Forbes lists, and more than half the population living in poverty. 64% of those surveyed say the economic situation for their family got worse in the past year. Much of the economy of the poor is held up by remittances from family members forced to migrate. In security policy, with more than 200,000 dead since the war on drugs began, and between 35 and 100,000 disappeared, people also want to change. The drug war, imported from the United States through the aid package called the Merida Initiative, and based on selectively taking out kingpins, is a direct cause of the increased violence and extortion in the country. The fragmentation of cartels has led to smaller groups terrorizing local communities where they control the turf, often in collusion with the police and military forces sent out to fight them. López Obrador has vowed to change that policy, placing the emphasis on public safety, although the details are scarce. Part of the business elite with close ties to the ruling party has launched a fear and smear campaign based on the threat of economic and financial instability if López Obrador wins. But in this, his third run for office, his team has carefully constructed alliances with key business leaders, most of whom are more closely tied to a weakened domestic market or who suffered directly from the huge amount of money skimmed off the economy through corruption, which is calculated at between 2 and 10% of the gross national product. The split in the business community came out clearly these past days, and in passing, revealed a prominent form of voter coercion. The leader of the conglomerate, Grupo México, which has benefited directly from pre-government's privatization measures and government concessions for mines, railroads, and highways, sent out a letter to its approximately 50,000 employees saying, "Recently, we have heard proposals to nationalize industries and roll back the reforms in education and energy, among other ideas that would mean going backwards decades and a return to an economic model that has been proven to have failed in several countries." Then comes the veiled threat. This economic model will affect the development and well-being of the country, the family economy, and the economy of Mexican companies. Still, without referring to López Obrador by name, the letter refers to this populist economic model, populist being the attack word of choice in the Mexican and U.S. press against López Obrador. The letter concludes, "We are worried about the well-being of our employees and our company and will take every measure necessary to assure the continuity of our business, thus planting the specter of job loss in every worker's head." López Obrador responded quickly and straight to the jugular at a campaign rally in Veracruz. Let's take a look at that response.
Germán Larrea, dueño del Grupo México, porque escribió una carta para sus trabajadores, diciéndoles que tengan cuidado, que no vayan a equivocarse, que no vayan a votar por nosotros. Comprendo su preocupación, porque Germán Larrea ha sido de los empresarios predilectos de todo este periodo neoliberal. Un empresario y también un buen traficante de influencias. Es el segundo hombre más rico de México. El primero es Slim. Ese señor Larrea es el segundo, dueño de minas y de muchos negocios en el país. Aparece en la lista de los hombres más ricos del mundo. Tengo que tratar este tema porque le tenemos que salir al paso a toda la campaña que han implementado para asustar al pueblo de México. Yo entiendo que Germán Larrea no quiera el cambio, porque a él le ha ido muy bien. Él antes de Salinas no aparecía en la lista de los hombres más ricos del mundo. Él empieza a aparecer en esa lista a partir de que Salinas de Gortari le concesionó, le entregó, le remató la mina histórica de Cananea en Sonora. Se hizo una evaluación en ese entonces. Costaba esa mina, que estaba en manos de la nación, que era una empresa pública, $2.000 millones. Y Salinas se le entregó en $400 millones. Así empezó a aparecer Germán Larrea entre los hombres más ricos del mundo. También, hasta ahora, tiene mucha influencia en el gobierno. Se contaminó todo el río Sonora porque hubo un derrame de químicos en la mina de Cananea y no le hicieron absolutamente nada. Se ha dedicado a destruir el territorio, a contaminar las tierras, a contaminar las aguas.
Larrea and other businessmen have created a website to discourage the Morena vote. While business pressures are one threat to a free and fair vote in Mexico, many others are emerging that are focused on government actions. Videos on social media show impoverished beneficiaries of social programs testifying that their benefits were being conditioned on a vote for the ruling party candidate. The government program Prospera and a program to support housewives called the Pink Wage target mostly women's right to a free vote by using the threat of withdrawing needed cash support unless recipients vote for the official candidate. Because of Mexico's history of fraud and the high stakes in this election, citizens are organizing and registering with the National Electoral Institute to volunteer as elections observers. People from other countries are also organizing delegations to participate in poll watching as foreign visitors. Nonpartisan eyes on the ground are an important way to monitor and prevent dirty tricks. The observation teams plan to deploy across the country before, during, and after the elections. With a month to go, the likely result seems to be clear, but the process is far from guaranteed. Powerful interests are inclined not to give up power and less to risk losing the impunity from investigation and prosecution that many have relied on to build their careers. The electoral institutions have shown signs of bias over the past year, and surveys also show that citizens have little faith in their willingness or ability to prevent dirty elections. That's why so much emphasis is being placed on the active participation of the people. That's it for this week. Thanks for watching, and join us again next week for our Mexican elections update.